Hey everyone! Tonight, we're traveling back farther than almost any story we've told before. Past the castles of the Middle Ages, past the temples of the ancients, past even the first farms and villages. Tonight, we enter a world before history. A world of caves, of firelight, and of survival. Imagine the air, heavy with the smell of damp earth and smoke. The flicker of a small fire pushes back the shadows, but not entirely. Beyond the cave mouth, the forest waits, dark, alive, and filled with dangers you cannot yet name. You are one of the earliest humans, stirring on a bed of animal furs. Your breath rises as mist in the cold morning air. The fire has nearly died to embers, and without it, you know the day will begin in fear. This was life for our distant ancestors. Every meal uncertain, every night fragile, every sound outside the cave a reminder that you were not alone. You were not the master of the world. You were only a small part of it, struggling to endure. Tonight, we'll walk with them. We'll wake in their caves, shape stone into tools, gather bitter roots, and carry spears into the unknown. We'll face the eyes of predators in the grass, the storms that drown the fire, and the hunger that gnaws when the hunt fails. And we'll share, too, in the warmth of the fire, the first sparks of story painted on cave walls, and the timeless gaze of the stars above. So, settle in. Let the fire crackle softly in your imagination. Let the shadows dance on stone walls, and let yourself drift into the quiet, fragile, and beautiful struggle of what it was really like to be a caveman. Part 1. Dawn in the Stone Age. The Cold Cave Awakening. The first sense is not light, but cold. It is a deep, penetrating cold that has seeped through the thick animal furs you lie upon, a cold that emanates from the stone beneath you and the damp, heavy air around you. Sleep has been a shallow river, a place of half-dreams and constant awareness, and you drift back to consciousness, not with a gentle start, but with a slow, heavy recognition of the ache in your bones. Your breath, when you release it, turns to a faint, ghostly mist in the near darkness, a fleeting testament to the warmth that still resides within your body, a warmth that feels fragile and besieged. You are not alone. The space around you is filled with the soft, rhythmic sounds of breathing, the occasional rustle of fur, a low cough from the other side of the chamber. This is your family, your clan, a small huddle of humanity packed together for shared warmth, a temporary fortress of bodies against the vast, indifferent cold of the world. Their presence is a comfort, but it is a silent one. There are no words of greeting. The language of this awakening is one of physical sensation, of shared discomfort, of the universal, unspoken understanding that another day of struggle has begun. Your bed is a pile of skins and dried moss laid upon the hard, uneven floor of the cave. The fur is coarse against your skin, and the familiar smell of old smoke, of animal fat, and of the damp, earthy scent of the cave itself is the first thing you inhale. It is the perfume of your existence, a smell so constant that you are only aware of it in these first, quiet moments of wakefulness. You can feel the sharp edge of a stone through the thin padding, a small, persistent pain in your hip that is as familiar as the hunger in your belly. Across the cave, the heart of your world is dying. The fire, which blazed with a fierce, protective life when you finally fell into sleep, is now just a faint, pulsing glow of red embers. It offers almost no light, casting only the deepest, softest of shadows against the low, curving stone of the cave wall.
It offers almost no warmth. Its weakness is the source of the chill that has crept into the cave, a quiet announcement that the night's long vigil is over and the world outside is waiting. The fire's decline is a source of deep, instinctual anxiety. It is the shield that keeps the great predators of the night at bay, the source of cooked food, the only true warmth you will know all day. To see it so diminished is to feel your own vulnerability laid bare.
You push yourself up on one elbow, the movement slow and stiff. Your joints creak in protest. A life of walking on hard ground, of carrying heavy loads, of sleeping on stone, has etched a permanent weariness into your body. The air you breathe is thick and heavy. The smoke from last night's fire, having no true chimney to escape through, has settled, mingling with the moisture that perpetually weeps from the limestone walls. It creates a haze that you can taste as much as see, a gritty, acrid film that coats the back of your throat. There is no window to the world, only the gaping, irregular mouth of the cave. Through it, you can see the first, faint, leaden gray of the pre-dawn sky. It is not a welcoming light. It is a cold, flat light that promises no new beginning, only a continuation of the endless cycle of survival. It illuminates the frost that has formed on the rocks near the cave entrance, a delicate, crystalline reminder of the cold's power. From the world beyond that entrance, you can hear the distant cry of a wolf, a lonely, mournful sound that serves as a reminder of the dangers that lie just beyond the fragile sanctuary of your stone home. You do not think in terms of hours or minutes. Time is measured in the slow, inexorable crawl of light across the sky, in the growing ache of hunger in your gut, in the life and death of the fire. And as you stir in the cold, dim light, you know only this: the fire is almost gone, the hunger is returning, and the day, with all of its unknown and certain perils, is here. The struggle has already begun. This tinder is the seed of the new fire. It is a collection of the driest, most flammable materials that can be found in a damp and unforgiving world. It might be the fine, powdery dust from a dry, rotted log, the fluffy down of a cattail, or a piece of amadou, a leathery fungus that has been carefully prepared to catch a spark. It is kept in a small pouch of animal hide, protected from the perpetual damp of the cave. A small, hoarded treasure of pure potential. The fire maker kneels before the hearth. The others watch in silence, their breath held, their bodies still. There is a tension in the air, a shared, unspoken prayer. The fire maker takes a small pinch of the tinder and places it in a sheltered nest of dried moss and grass, close to the last remaining ember. If the ember is still alive enough, a gentle, patient breath of air, blown through pursed lips, might be enough to nurse it back to life, to make it glow a brighter red, and then, with a flicker, to ignite the tinder. But often, the last ember is dead, a cold gray ash. And so, the second, more difficult ritual must begin. The fire maker holds the piece of flint in one hand and the iron pyrite in the other. They bring the two stones together with a sharp, scraping strike. The sound is a harsh, grating click that echoes in the quiet cave. For a moment, nothing happens. Another strike, and then a tiny, brilliant yellow spark leaps from the point of impact, a fleeting star that is born and dies in an instant. It falls harmlessly to the stone floor. The first fire of the day is not complete until the fire is reborn. The faint, dying embers at the center of the cave are a source of deep, primal anxiety, a flickering pulse that must be coaxed back into a roaring heart. Without the fire, the cave is just a cold, dark hole in the rock, a tomb rather than a home. Without the fire, the beasts of the world are masters. Without the fire, the raw, tough meat from a hunt is just a bloody, indigestible burden. The first and most important task of the day, the one upon which all others depend, is this sacred, terrifying ritual, the making of the new flame. The keeper of the fire, perhaps an elder with patient, gnarled hands, or a younger member of the clan who has shown a particular skill, approaches the hearth with a reverence born of absolute necessity. This is not a casual chore. It is a ceremony, a battle against the encroaching dark and cold. In their hands, they hold the tools of creation, tools more precious than any weapon. A piece of flint, its edges sharp and cool to the touch. A nodule of iron pyrite, a stone that holds the secret of sparks within its dull metallic gleam. And most precious of all, a small, carefully guarded bundle of tinder. This is a battle of persistence. The firemaker strikes again and again, their movements economical and practiced. The rhythm of the clicks becomes a kind of desperate heartbeat. The goal is to make one of these tiny, fleeting sparks land perfectly on the waiting bed of tinder. For long, frustrating moments, the sparks fly wide or die before they can land. The anxiety in the cave grows. The cold seems to deepen, the shadows to press in a little closer. And then, it happens. A single, well-aimed spark lands in the heart of the tinder. It does not burst into flame. It begins as a tiny, glowing orange spot, no bigger than a pinhead. A thin, almost invisible wisp of smoke rises from it, carrying a sharp, acrid smell. This is the most delicate moment of all. The firemaker leans in, their face close to the smoking tinder, and begins to blow. Not a hard, forceful breath which would extinguish the fragile ember, but a long, slow, steady stream of air, a life-giving whisper. The glowing spot begins to spread, a slow, creeping dawn across the dark landscape of the tinder. The smoke thickens, the smell of burning becomes stronger. The firemaker continues to blow, their breath the engine of this creation. The others in the cave watch, mesmerized as the orange glow intensifies, pulsing with the rhythm of the firemaker's breath. And then, with a soft, sudden whoosh, a tiny yellow flame flickers into existence. A collective silent sigh of relief seems to move through the cave. The battle is won. The firemaker carefully adds the smallest, driest twigs to the new flame, feeding it, nurturing it, helping it to grow. The tiny flame licks at the twigs, catching them, growing stronger. Soon, larger pieces of wood can be added. The fire begins to crackle, to dance, to live. Light pushes back the shadows. Warmth begins to radiate outwards, a tangible wave of comfort and security. The day has truly begun. The heart of the world is beating once more. The taste of raw roots. With the fire reborn, a fragile circle of warmth established in the cold heart of the cave, the second, more personal ache of the morning makes itself known. It is the deep, twisting emptiness of the stomach, a hunger that is not an occasional visitor, but a constant, ambient presence in your life. The first meal of the day is not a pleasure, not a moment of savory delight. It is a stark, functional necessity, a simple calculation of fuel required for the work to come. It is a meal that is often foraged, not hunted. and its taste is the taste of the earth itself. Bitter, gritty, and just barely enough. You do not have a pantry or a larder. The food stores, if they exist at all, are meager and precarious. A small pile of nuts gathered weeks ago, a strip of meat from the last hunt, dried and smoked over the fire until it is as tough as leather. These are precious resources to be rationed with extreme care. The first meal of the day is often something simpler, something that can be gathered from the immediate surroundings of the cave. An older woman, her mind a living map of the local landscape, might lead a small group of children to a patch of ground just outside the cave. Her knowledge is a treasure more valuable than any spear. She knows which plants offer sustenance and which harbor a swift and silent poison. She can distinguish the feathery leaves of a wild carrot from the deadly fronds of a hemlock. This knowledge, passed down through generations of silent observation, is the key to this first humble meal.
Her hands, gnarled and stained with dirt, work with a practiced efficiency. She uses a simple digging stick, a piece of fire-hardened wood, to pry at the hard, cold earth. She is searching for the swollen, starchy roots of edible plants. The work is slow and difficult. The ground is rocky and resistant. But eventually, she unearths a small, pale, and knobbly tuber. It is not much, but it is something. She brushes the loose dirt from it and places it in a woven grass basket or a hide pouch. Back in the cave, the roots are distributed. There are no plates, no cutlery. You take the root in your hands. It is cold and hard to the touch, and still caked with a fine layer of soil. You rub it with your thumb to remove the worst of the grit, but some always remains. The first bite is a shock of coldness and a crunch of earth. The taste is overwhelmingly bitter. It is a deep, chemical bitterness that floods your mouth and makes you want to spit it out, but you do not. You have learned from infancy to associate this taste not with displeasure, but with survival. You chew slowly, deliberately, your strong jaw muscles working to break down the tough, fibrous flesh of the root. The texture is stringy and resistant. It is a food that fights back.
This is not a meal to be eaten quickly. It takes time and effort to render the root into a swallowable pulp. As you chew, the starches in the root begin to break down, releasing a faint, almost imperceptible sweetness, a small reward for your persistence. But the dominant flavors are of bitterness and earth. It is the taste of a world without cultivation, a world where the plants have not been bred for sweetness, but have been left to their own wild, defensive chemistry. You eat in silence, focused on the work of chewing. The only sounds are the crackle of the fire and the soft, rhythmic grinding of teeth. You watch the others, their faces impassive, as they too performed this same patient labor. There is no joy in this meal, only a grim, quiet satisfaction. The root fills your stomach, a heavy, starchy ballast against the gnawing ache of hunger. It is not delicious. It is not comforting, but it is energy. It is just enough fuel to allow you to stand up, to pick up your spear, and to face the long, uncertain day of the hunt. It is the taste of endurance.
The hunt's beginning. The bitter taste of the morning's root still lingers in your mouth, a reminder of the meager sustenance that stands between you and the gnawing emptiness of true hunger. But now, with the sun a little higher in the sky, a pale, watery disk that offers more light than warmth, the real work begins. The survival of the clan depends not on the foraged scraps from the earth, but on the rare, precious, and life unforgiving bounty of the hunt. This is the great gamble of the day, a journey into a world of silence, patience, and sudden, brutal violence. The hunters gather near the mouth of the cave, a small band of the strongest and swiftest members of the clan. The mood is one of quiet, focused solemnity. There is no bravado, no loud talk of the glories to come. The hunt is a serious and sacred business, and to approach it with anything less than complete reverence and concentration is to invite failure, and with it, starvation. The silence is heavy with the weight of the clan's need. Your primary tool, your extension of your own arm, your companion in this endeavor, is the spear. It is a simple but deadly creation. The shaft is a long, straight piece of wood, carefully selected, stripped of its bark, and straightened and hardened over the fire. It is smooth and familiar in your grip. The tip is the heart of the weapon. It is a piece of flint, knapped with incredible skill to a sharp, leaf-shaped point. The edges are as sharp as a razor. This stone point has been fitted into a notch at the end of the shaft and bound tightly with animal sinew and a resin made from birch bark. It is a beautiful, functional, and lethal object, the culmination of thousands of generations of knowledge. You test its weight, its balance. It feels like a part of you. Before you leave the relative safety of the cave, there may be a small, silent ritual. An elder might trace the shape of a bison or a deer in the dirt with a stick, a silent prayer to the spirits of the animals for a successful hunt. You might touch a special smooth stone that you carry in your pouch, a personal talisman for luck. These are small gestures, but they are a way of acknowledging the immense, mysterious forces that govern your world, a way of asking for permission and for success in the bloody work to come.
Then you move out. You do not walk in a clump. You spread out, moving in a loose, practiced formation, your feet making almost no sound on the rocky ground. You are a creature of the landscape, your body clad in animal hides that help you to blend in with the muted browns and grays of the world. Your movements are fluid and economical, born of a lifetime of walking this terrain. The hunt begins not with a chase, but with a search. Your eyes are your most important tool. You scan the ground, not for the animals themselves, but for their signs. A footprint in a patch of soft mud, a broken twig, a pile of fresh dung. These are the letters in a silent language that you have learned to read with absolute fluency. You can tell from a track how large the animal is, how recently it passed this way, whether it was walking or running. The world you move through is vast and seemingly empty. The rolling hills, the sparse forests, the wide grassy plains, they hold their secrets close. The hunt is an act of profound patience. Hours can pass with no sign of a promising track. The initial energy of the morning gives way to a long, monotonous rhythm of walking and watching. The sun climbs higher in the sky. The initial chill of the morning is replaced by a cool, persistent wind. The hunger in your belly, which the morning's route had temporarily dulled, begins to return as a low, persistent ache. The silence of the hunting party is absolute. A single careless sound could spook a herd that is still miles away. And so you walk on, your spear in your hand, your eyes on the ground, a silent, hopeful, and hungry figure in a vast and ancient landscape. The predator's eyes. As you move through the silent, watchful landscape, your senses are stretched to their absolute limit. You are focused on the hunt, your mind filled with the signs and strategies of finding your prey. But deep within your consciousness, a second, parallel awareness is always active.
It is the constant low-grade hum of fear, the knowledge that in this world, the line between hunter and hunted is a thin and easily erased one. You are not the only predator out here, and you are far from the most powerful. The rustle in the tall grass, the snap of a twig in the forest, the shadow that flashes for a moment at the edge of your vision, any of these could be the prelude to your own violent end. The world is filled with eyes that are watching you. You feel it as a prickle on the back of your neck, a deep, instinctive unease that has been honed by 1,000,000 years of survival. You are strong, you are clever, and you have a sharp, stone-tipped spear in your hand. But you are also slow and soft, and your hide is thin. Compared to the other great hunters of this age, you are a fragile and vulnerable creature. In the forest, there is the ever-present threat of the cave bear, a creature of immense size and terrifying power. You've seen the claw marks it leaves on the trees, great gouges in the bark that are higher than you can reach. You have heard stories from the elders of hunters who were crushed by a single blow from its massive paw. When you move through the trees, you do so with a heightened sense of caution, your ears straining for the sound of its heavy, shuffling gait. On the open plains, the danger is of a different kind. Here, the great cats are the masters. The cave lion, larger and more powerful than its modern descendants, is a perfect killing machine, a silent, stalking hunter of incredible speed and strength. You know that it can be hidden in a patch of tall grass, its tawny coat a perfect camouflage, watching you, waiting for a moment of inattention. The fear of the lion is a constant companion on the hunt, a reason to always stay with the group, to never let yourself become isolated. And then there are the wolves. They are a constant presence, shadows that flit at the edges of your world. You hear their calls at night, a sound that is both beautiful and deeply menacing. During the day, you might see them watching you from a distant ridge, a silent, patient pack, their intelligent eyes following your every move. They are your rivals in the hunt, but they are also a potential threat. A lone hunter, injured or separated from the group, could easily become their prey. You watch them as they watch you, a silent, respectful, and deeply wary acknowledgement between two competing predators. This constant awareness of danger shapes your every action. You do not walk in a straight line from one point to another. You move from one area of cover to the next, using the contours of the land, the scattered boulders, and the thickets of trees to your advantage. You pause often, not just to look for tracks, but to listen, to smell the air, to sense for any sign of another presence. Your head is constantly turning, your eyes scanning the horizon, the ridgeline, the dark spaces between the trees. The fear is not a paralyzing terror. It is a tool. It is a form of energy, a sharpening of the senses that keeps you alive. It is a deep, instinctual respect for the power of the world you inhabit. To forget this fear, to become complacent, to believe for a moment that you are the undisputed master of this landscape, is the most dangerous mistake you can make. And so you walk on, a hunter who is also being hunted, your spear held ready, your heart beating a steady, watchful rhythm, a small, fragile human in a world of powerful and hungry eyes. Part 2. The harsh work of living. Shaping the stone. The life you lead is built upon a foundation of stone. The cave that shelters you is stone. The hearth where you build your fire is stone. And the tools that allow you to hunt, to butcher, to scrape hides, and to shape wood are all born from stone. The art of flint knapping, of shaping a raw, dull nodule of flint into a deadly sharp and functional tool, is the most important technology of your world. It is a skill that is difficult to master, passed down from one generation to the next, a secret and sacred knowledge that is the very key to your survival. The process begins with a search. Not all stone is created equal. You need flint,
or a similar type of cryptocrystalline rock like chert or obsidian. You know where to find it, in the chalky cliffs by the river or in the beds of ancient streams. You are looking for a nodule of the right size and quality, one without too many cracks or imperfections. You can feel the quality of the stone by its weight, its density, the way it rings with a clear, high note when you tap it with another rock.
Back in the relative comfort of the cave, in the flickering light of the fire, the work begins. You sit on a fur on the floor, the chosen nodule of flint held firmly on your lap or between your knees. Your toolkit is simple, made of other harder stones and pieces of bone or antler. The first tool is a hammerstone, a hard, round cobble of quartzite or a similar tough rock. This is used for the initial rough shaping. You hold the hammerstone in your dominant hand, and with a sharp, controlled blow, you strike the edge of the flint nodule. The sound is a loud, sharp crack, like a breaking bone. A large, thick flake of flint shears off from the core. This is a moment of both creation and destruction. You are breaking the stone, but you are also revealing the potential that lies within it. The newly exposed surface of the flint is a different color and texture from the dull outer cortex. It is smooth, almost glassy, and its edge is incredibly sharp. This is a process of careful, deliberate reduction. You turn the core in your hand, examining the angles, planning your next strike. You are not just banging rocks together. You are thinking, visualizing the tool that is hidden within the stone. You strike again, and another flake is removed. You are creating a series of ridges and platforms on the core, which will allow you to control the shape and size of the flakes you remove next. This is a conversation with the stone, a dialogue of force and fracture. After the rough shaping is done with the hammerstone, you switch to a softer tool for the finer work. This is a billet, or a soft hammer, made from a piece of antler, bone, or dense wood. The softer material of the billet allows you to remove thinner, flatter, and more controlled flakes. The sound of the billet striking the flint is a duller, more resonant thud. With each strike, you are thinning the tool, refining its shape, creating the elegant, leaf-like form of a spear point or the curved edge of a hand axe. The final stage is the most delicate of all. It is called pressure flaking. For this, you use a small, pointed tool, perhaps the tip of an antler tine or a piece of sharpened bone. You place the tip of this tool on the very edge of the stone point you are making, and with a strong, steady pressure, you push downwards. A tiny, ripple-like flake of flint pops off. You repeat this process over and over again, working your way along the edge of the tool. This pressure flaking allows you to create a fine, serrated, and incredibly sharp cutting edge. The ground around you is littered with the sharp, waste flakes of flint, a dangerous but necessary byproduct of your work. Your hands are calloused and scarred from 1,000 tiny cuts. But in your hand, you now hold a perfect creation. A spear point, symmetrical and deadly. A scraper, its edge honed for cleaning a hide. A knife, sharp enough to butcher the toughest animal. It is a piece of the earth transformed by your knowledge, your patience, and your skill into a fragile, beautiful, and absolutely essential key to your survival. The gathering hands. While the hunt provides the rare and vital bounty of meat and fat, the daily, reliable sustenance of the clan comes not from the spear, but from the patient, knowledgeable work of the gathering hands. The landscape that seems so empty and monotonous to an untrained eye is, to you, a vast living larder, a complex tapestry of edible and medicinal plants that changes with the rhythm of the seasons. The work of gathering is a quiet, constant, and essential thread in the fabric of your survival. A skill based not on strength, but on memory, patience, and a deep, intimate connection to the land. The gatherers are often the women and the children of the clan, and their work begins as soon as the morning chill has left the air. They move out from the cave not in a single focused hunting party, but in a looser, more wandering group, their eyes scanning the ground, the bushes, the trees. Each person carries a simple bag made of animal hide, or a basket woven from tough grasses, the tools of their gentle harvest. Their minds are living encyclopedias of botanical knowledge. This is a science learned not from books, but from a lifetime of observation, of tasting, of being shown by their mothers and grandmothers. They know that the small, bright red berries on one bush are a sweet, juicy treat full of the sun's warmth, but the almost identical berries on the bush next to it will bring a swift and agonizing death. They know that the leaves of the wild garlic can be crushed to add a pungent flavor to a meal, and that the root of the marshmallow plant can be used to soothe a cough.
In the spring, they search for the first tender green shoots, wild onions, the curled fronds of young ferns, the leaves of sorrel with their sharp, acidic taste. These are the first fresh foods after a long, bleak winter of dried meat and stored nuts, and their vibrant green taste is a powerful tonic for the body and the spirit. In the summer, the world is a riot of abundance. The gatherers move through the meadows and the edges of the forest, their hands stained with the juice of wild strawberries, raspberries, and bilberries. These are moments of rare, sweet pleasure, a brief respite from the bitterness of roots and the toughness of meat. The children, their faces and hands purple with juice, learn their first lessons in foraging, their play a form of education. The autumn is the time of the great harvest, a frantic race against the coming of the first frost. This is the season of nuts. The gatherers shake the branches of the hazel and the oak trees, collecting the fallen nuts and acorns. The acorns are bitter and toxic when raw, but the gatherers know the secret of how to leach them in running water, to wash away the tannins and render them into a starchy, edible flour. They gather the sweet chestnuts, the wild apples, the haws from the hawthorn bushes. Every edible thing is collected, a vital store of calories to be hoarded against the long, lean months of winter.
The work is slow and methodical. It is a task of patient searching, of careful discrimination. The gatherers move with a quiet, focused grace, their bodies attuned to the small details of the world around them. They see the faint outline of a mushroom hiding in the leaf litter. They notice the subtle difference in the shape of a leaf that distinguishes an edible plant from a poisonous one. This knowledge is the clan's greatest insurance policy against starvation. The hunt is a gamble. It can succeed spectacularly, or it can fail completely. But the gatherers almost always come back with something. Their baskets may not be overflowing, but they will contain a handful of nuts, a collection of roots, a bunch of edible greens. It may not be a feast, but it is enough. The quiet, persistent, and incredibly knowledgeable work of the gathering hands is the steady, reliable heartbeat that sustains the clan through the endless, uncertain cycle of the seasons.
The shared meal. The sun is low in the sky, its light turning the landscape to shades of gold and long, purple shadow. The hunters have returned. Today, the hunt was a success. On their shoulders, they carry the heavy, butchered limbs of a wild horse or a large deer. A wave of quiet, profound relief ripples through the clan as they gather near the cave mouth to greet the returning party. The sight and the smell of the fresh raw meat is a powerful promise. Tonight, there will be a feast. Tonight, the gnawing egg of hunger will be replaced by the deep, satisfying fullness of a belly filled with fat and protein. The preparation of the meal is a communal affair. The meat is brought to the great fire, which has been built up into a roaring blaze. The air fills with the sharp, coppery smell of fresh blood. The best pieces of the animal are prepared for roasting. There are no ovens, no complex cooking pots. The method is simple, direct, and primal. Chunks of meat are skewered on long green wood sticks, which are then propped up on stones around the fire. As the meat begins to cook, A new set of smells fills the cave, mingling with the ever-present sense of smoke and damp earth. It is the rich, savory, and deeply appetizing smell of roasting flesh and melting fat. Grease drips from the meat, hitting the hot coals with a loud hiss and a sizzle, sending up puffs of fragrant, oily smoke. The sight, the sound, and the smell of the cooking meat create a powerful sense of anticipation. Mouths begin to water. Stomachs, long accustomed to the bitterness of roots and the blandness of dried meat, rumble in anticipation.
This is a time of waiting, but it is a good waiting, a waiting filled with the certainty of satisfaction to come. The clan gathers around the fire, their faces illuminated by the flickering orange light. The warmth of the blaze pushes back the evening chill. The light pushes back the encroaching darkness, and the promise of the meal pushes back the constant, low-grade fear of starvation. This is a moment of safety, of community, of abundance. When the meat is cooked, its outer surface charred and crispy, its inside still juicy and red, it is pulled from the fire. There is no formal serving, no ceremony of plates and portions. The meat is carved with a sharp flint knife and distributed among the members of the clan. You take your portion in your hands. It is hot, greasy, and almost too heavy to hold. The first bite is an explosion of flavor and sensation. The smoky, charred taste of the outer crust gives way to the rich, savory, and slightly bloody taste of the meat itself. The fat melts in your mouth, a pure, concentrated burst of energy that your body craves. It is a food that is both delicious and deeply, fundamentally satisfying. You eat with your hands and your teeth, tearing at the flesh, your face slick with grease. The meal is eaten in a comfortable, contented silence. The only sounds are the crackle of the fire, the tearing of meat, and the quiet, satisfied grunts of your companions. This shared meal is more than just a way of satisfying hunger. It is the central ritual of your social life. It is here, around the fire, sharing the bounty of a successful hunt, that the bonds of the clan are forged and reinforced. You look at the faces of your family, their features softened by the firelight, their bellies full, and you feel a profound sense of belonging, of shared destiny. After the meal, a deep, comfortable lethargy settles over the group. The children, their bellies full for the first time in days, fall asleep in the arms of their mothers. The adults lie back on their furs, their bodies heavy and satisfied. The fire burns brightly. The dangers of the world outside seem, for this one night, to be very far away. The shared meal has not just fed your bodies, it has fed your spirits. It has reminded you that in this harsh and unforgiving world, you are not alone. The Cave Walls Stories. In the deep, quiet hours after the shared meal, when the bellies are full and the world outside is a silent ocean of darkness, a different kind of work sometimes begins. It is not the work of the spear or the digging stick. It is the work of memory, of magic, of making a mark that will outlast the fleeting moment. It is the work of the artist. In the deepest, most secret recesses of the cave, by the flickering, uncertain light of a tallow lamp, the stories of your people are given a form that is as permanent as the stone itself. To reach this sacred space, you must leave the familiar, smoky comfort of the main living chamber. You crawl through a low, narrow passage, the rough stone scraping against your back, the darkness absolute and unnerving. You carry with you a small, simple lamp, a hollowed-out stone filled with animal fat, with a wick of twisted moss floating in it. Its light is a small, brave star in the immense subterranean blackness. The air in these deep passages is different. It is colder, stiller, and carries the clean, mineral scent of ancient, undisturbed rock.
The only sound is the soft padding of your own feet and the faint, almost inaudible drip of water seeping through the limestone over 1,000 centuries. This is a journey into the Earth's memory, a descent into a place that feels outside of ordinary time.
And then the narrow passage opens into a vast, high-ceiling chamber. You hold your lamp high, and its flickering light reveals a breathtaking sight. The walls of this hidden cathedral are not blank stone. They are alive with a silent, frozen stampede of animals. Great, shaggy-maned bison, their powerful shoulders hunched as if ready to charge. Herds of wild horses, their manes flowing, their legs captured in a perfect, graceful gallop. Majestic stags, their antlers a complex and beautiful crown. And here and there, the shadowy outline of a great cave lion, its presence a ripple of danger in this silent, painted world. The artist of your clan, perhaps an elder with a steady hand and a deep connection to the spirit world, prepares their materials. The palette is the earth itself. They have bowls made of hollowed stone, and in them are pigments that have been painstakingly gathered and ground into a fine powder. There is red ochre, a mineral rich in iron oxide, which provides a range of deep, earthy reds and oranges. There is manganese oxide for a deep, velvety black. There is charcoal from the fire and white chalk from the cliffs. These powders are mixed with a binder, perhaps cave water, animal fat, or saliva, to create a thick, usable paint.
The artist dips their fingers into the black pigment. They approach the wall, their face a mask of intense concentration. They are not just painting a picture, they are performing a ritual. They are calling the spirits of the animals, they are capturing their essence, they are ensuring the success of future hunts. The painting is a prayer, a spell, a story, all at once. They begin to draw, their fingers moving with a surprising confidence and grace across the rough surface of the stone. They use the natural bumps and curves of the cave wall to give their animals a sense of three-dimensional life. A bulge in the rock becomes the powerful shoulder of a bison. A crack in the stone becomes the line of its back. They do not just paint the outline, they fill in the bodies with color, sometimes blowing the powdered pigment through a hollow bone to create a soft, airbrushed effect. And here and there, among the great beasts, are the marks of human hands. The artist might place their hand flat against the wall and blow the red ochre powder over it, leaving behind a perfect, ghostly stencil of their own presence. It is a signature, a declaration. I was here. We were here. It is a bridge of touch across an unimaginable expanse of time. In the flickering, dancing light of the tallow lamp, the painted animals seem to move, their legs to flicker, their great bodies to heave with a silent, stony breath. This hidden gallery is the soul of your clan, a place where the temporal world of the hunt and the eternal world of the spirits meet. It is a storybook, a temple, and a promise. A promise that, as long as the stone endures, the memory of the great beasts and of the people who hunted them will never be entirely lost to the darkness.
The water's gift. In the constant, primal hierarchy of your needs, after the warmth of the fire and the sustenance of food, there is the simple, desperate necessity of water. It is the gift of the earth, the lifeblood of the world, and your connection to it is direct, daily, and deeply respectful. There are no pipes, no wells, no taps. There is only the source, the cold, clear stream that flows at the bottom of the valley, or the slow, steady drip of water that has filtered through 1,000 feet of limestone to emerge in a hidden pool deep within your cave. The daily journey to the water source is a fundamental rhythm of your life. It is a task often performed by the women and older children of the clan. In the early morning, as the sun begins to warm the air, they will make their way down the familiar, well-worn path from the cave mouth to the stream. They move with a steady, practiced gait, their bodies accustomed to the steep, rocky terrain. They carry with them the simple, ingenious vessels that have been crafted to hold this precious liquid. Some might carry containers made from the dried, hollowed-out gourds of wild plants. Others have bags made from the stomach or bladder of a butchered animal, a watertight and flexible pouch that can be slung over a shoulder. The most basic and universal container, of course, is the cupped human hand. The stream is a place of life and of beauty. The water runs clear and achingly cold over a bed of smooth, rounded stones. Small, darting fish flicker in the shallows. The sound of the flowing water is a constant, gentle music, a sound of purity and of endless renewal. When you reach the stream, you kneel at its edge. You dip your cupped hands into the water and bring it to your lips. The taste is clean, cold, and intensely refreshing. It is a taste of stone and of earth, a pure, unadorned taste that quenches a thirst you are only half aware of. This is a time for more than just drinking. It is a time for a form of cleaning. You splash the cold water on your face, washing away the grime of sleep and the smoke of the fire. You rinse your hands, stained with the dirt of foraging or the blood of the hunt. In the warmer months, you might wade into the shallows, the icy shock of the water a welcome jolt to your senses, a brief, exhilarating moment of cleanliness. But the water source is also a place of vulnerability. You are out in the open here, away from the safety of the cave. Your head is down, your attention focused on the water. This is a place where predators also come to drink. The prints of deer and of wolves are intermingled in the soft mud at the water's edge. Every visit to the stream is accompanied by a quiet, watchful alertness. Your eyes scan the opposite bank, the thickets of trees. Your ears strain for any sound that is out of place. The gift of water must be taken with caution.
The journey back to the cave is a slow and careful one. The water-filled gourds and hide bags are heavy and awkward to carry. You must navigate the steep path without stumbling, without spilling a single precious drop. The water is not just for drinking. It is used for cooking, for mixing with ground ochre to make paint, for softening a hide before it is scraped. It is a fundamental resource, the solvent of your daily life. Sometimes, in the deep, secret places of the cave, there is another source of water, a small pool fed by a constant, slow drip from a stalactite above. The sound of the drip is a hollow, resonant echo in the profound silence of the deep cave, a sound that is like the earth's own slow, steady heartbeat. This water is special. It is colder, purer, and feels imbued with the ancient spirit of the stone. It is water that is used for rituals, for mixing the sacred paints, for drinking before a great hunt. It is a secret, holy well, a direct connection to the deep, life-giving heart of the world.
The clash with beasts. The world you inhabit is not an empty stage upon which you are the sole actor. It is a world you share with other, older, and often far more powerful creatures. These are the great megafauna of the Ice Age, beasts of a size and ferocity that is difficult to imagine. You hunt them for your survival, but every hunt, every chance encounter in the wild is a desperate life-or-death gamble. The clash with these great beasts is the most dramatic and terrifying moment of your existence. A brief, brutal explosion of violence that decides who will eat and who will be eaten. The most formidable of these creatures is the woolly mammoth. It is a moving mountain of muscle and shaggy brown hair with great curving tusks of ivory that can tear through a human body as if it were paper. You see them from a distance, moving in slow, ponderous herds across the vast, treeless steppe. Their size is awe-inspiring, almost supernatural. To hunt such a creature is an act of incredible courage and even greater desperation. It is not a task for a single hunter. The hunt for a mammoth is a carefully planned and coordinated effort by the entire clan. The strategy is not one of direct brute force confrontation. That would be suicide. The goal is to separate a single, weaker individual from the herd, perhaps a young one, an old one, or one that is already injured. You use your knowledge of the land to your advantage. You try to drive the chosen animal towards a natural trap, a narrow ravine, a boggy swamp, or the edge of a high cliff.
The chase is a terrifying, chaotic affair. You run alongside the great beast, your small human form dwarfed by its immense bulk. The ground trembles under its thundering footsteps. Its trumpeting cries of fear and rage are a deafening roar that fills the air. You throw your spears, not hoping for a single killing blow, but for 1,000 small wounds. You aim for the soft underbelly, the flanks, the legs. The stone points of your spears are sharp, but they can do little more than wound the thick, hairy hide. The goal is to weaken it, to slow it down, to make it bleed. If you can drive it into a trap, the final brutal work begins. Cornered and enraged, the mammoth is at its most dangerous. It thrashes its great head, its tusks scything through the air. The hunters must be quick, nimble, and fearless, darting in to throw their spears and then leaping back to avoid the deadly charge. Many hunts end in tragedy, with a hunter gored or trampled or crushed. But if the plan works, the great beast, weakened by blood loss and exhaustion, will finally collapse. Its death is a moment of profound, exhausted silence, the end of a titanic struggle. The reward is immense. A mountain of meat, a wealth of fat, thick hides for clothing and shelter, and magnificent ivory tusks for tools and ornaments. But the price is often paid in blood. Other beasts present other dangers. The woolly rhinoceros, with its great horn and its aggressive, unpredictable temper, is a formidable foe. The giant Irish elk, with its vast, branching antlers, can be deadly when cornered. And then there is the constant, lurking threat of the great predators. A chance encounter with a cave bear in its den, or a saber-toothed cat on a kill, is a sudden, desperate fight for your own life. In these moments, there is no time for strategy or for fear. There is only instinct. Your spear comes up, your body tenses, a battle cry is torn from your throat. It is a clash of tooth and claw against sharpened stone and desperate human courage. Often, the best strategy is to retreat, to cede the ground to the more powerful creature. Your life is more valuable than a single meal. But sometimes, there is no choice. And in that brief, terrible moment of combat, the raw, brutal nature of your world is laid bare. It is a world where survival is a daily, violent, and uncertain struggle. The storm's wrath. The sky, which was a pale, washed-out blue just a short time ago, has turned to a bruised, heavy purple gray. The air, once cool and crisp, has become thick, still, and strangely warm. A deep, unnatural silence has fallen over the landscape. The birds have stopped singing, the insects have gone quiet. It is the silence of anticipation, the deep breath that the world takes before the storm's wrath is unleashed.
You look up at the churning dark clouds from the mouth of your cave, and a deep, instinctual unease settles in your gut. You know what is coming. The first sign is the wind. It begins as a low, mournful sigh, a whisper that rustles the dry grasses and the leaves of the few hardy trees, but it quickly grows in strength, becoming a physical presence, a cold, shoving force that tears at your hair and your hide clothing. It carries with it the smell of rain and of distant wet earth. The sigh becomes a howl, a wild, shrieking voice that seems to whip around the corners of the rocks, a sound of pure, untamed power. Then comes the first distant rumble of thunder. It is a low, deep, guttural sound, like the growl of some unimaginably large beast far away on the horizon. It is a sound that you feel in your chest as much as you hear with your ears. The rumbles grow closer, louder, more frequent, a series of percussive booms that seem to shake the very stone of your cave. With each rumble, a flash of white, silent lightning splits the dark sky, illuminating the terrifying, roiling clouds for a brief, ghostly instant. And then the rain begins. It does not start as a gentle drizzle. It is a sudden, violent deluge, a solid wall of water that crashes down from the sky. The sound is a deafening roar, a constant, drumming cacophony that drowns out all other sounds. The ground outside the cave is instantly transformed into a churning sea of mud. The stream at the bottom of the valley, normally a placid ribbon of water, will soon become a raging brown torrent, tearing at its banks and sweeping away everything in its path. You retreat deeper into the cave, but the storm follows you. The howling wind finds its way into the cave mouth, creating a powerful, chilling draft that threatens the one thing that stands between you and the full fury of the storm, your fire. The wind whips at the flames, making them dance and flicker wildly. Sparks and embers are torn from the hearth and sent scattering across the cave floor. The rain, driven by the wind, begins to lash its way into the entrance of the cave, hissing as it hits the hot stones of the hearth.
The great fear is that the fire will be drowned. The clan huddles around it, using their bodies and spare animal hides to create a makeshift shield against the wind and the rain. Keeping the fire alive becomes a desperate, focused battle. If the fire goes out, the cave will be plunged into a terrifying, absolute darkness, and the only warmth will be the rapidly fading heat of your own bodies. The cold, wet misery of the storm will have won. Water begins to seep through the cracks in the limestone ceiling, a slow, steady drip, drip, drip that forms cold, muddy puddles on the cave floor. The air becomes saturated with a chilling dampness that seems to penetrate right to your bones. You huddle together in your furs, shivering, listening to the titanic, elemental war that is raging just outside your fragile shelter. In these moments, you feel your own smallness, your own profound insignificance in the face of the world's immense, indifferent power. You are a tiny, fragile creature hiding in a hole in the rock while the sky tears itself apart. All you can do is wait and tend the fire and hope that your stone shelter is strong enough to withstand the storm's wrath. All you can do is endure. The wound untreated. Pain is a constant and familiar companion in your life. It is the dull ache of a muscle strained by a long hunt, the sharp sting of a blister on your foot, the low throb of a tooth that has begun to decay. This is the ordinary, everyday pain that you have learned to live with, to ignore, to push to the back of your mind. But there is another kind of pain, a new and terrifying pain that begins with a small, seemingly insignificant event. then grows, day by day, into a raging, life-threatening fire. This is the wound untreated. It begins with a moment of carelessness. While butchering an animal, the sharp edge of your flint knife slips and lays open a deep gash on your forearm. Or, while climbing a rocky slope, you fall, and a sharp stone tears a ragged wound in your leg. The initial pain is sharp and clean, and you are not alarmed. You've been cut many times before. You press a handful of moss or cobwebs to the wound to stanch the flow of blood, and you go on with your day. But this time is different. In the first day or two, the wound feels hot and tight. The skin around it becomes red and swollen. A dull, throbbing pain begins to radiate from it, a pain that does not subside but grows steadily in intensity. You have no understanding of bacteria, of infection, of the invisible world of germs that has invaded your body through this small, open gateway. You only know that something is wrong.
The elder of the clan, the one who holds the knowledge of healing, is summoned. They examine the wound with a serious, worried expression. Their medicine is a mixture of practical herbalism and spiritual ritual. They might prepare a poultice of crushed leaves from a plant known for its soothing properties, like yarrow or plantain. They might wash the wound with a decoction of boiled tree bark, which contains tannins that can help to dry it out. They may also chant a prayer or a spell over the wound, appealing to the spirits of the world to drive out the evil that has taken root in your flesh. But the poultices and the prayers have no effect. The infection deepens. The wound begins to weep a thick, yellow, foul-smelling pus. The red of the skin begins to darken, turning a bruised, angry purple. Red streaks may begin to creep up your limb from the site of the wound, a visible map of the poison's journey towards the heart of your body. The pain is now a constant, agonizing torment that makes it impossible to sleep, impossible to think of anything else.
A fever begins. It starts as a series of chills that rack your body, making you shiver uncontrollably, even when you are huddled by the fire, wrapped in the thickest furs. Then the chills give way to a raging heat, a fire that seems to be burning you up from the inside. Your skin is hot and dry to the touch. You become delirious, your mind filled with strange, terrifying visions. You drift in and out of a nightmare state, half aware of the worried faces of your family leaning over you, of the cool water they trickle between your cracked lips. There is nothing more that can be done. There are no antibiotics, no surgeons, no understanding of how to fight this internal war. Your body is on its own, locked in a desperate battle with an invisible enemy. Your clan can only watch, helpless as the fever rages, as your strength ebbs away, as your breathing becomes shallow and ragged. Sometimes, miraculously, the body wins. The fever breaks, the swelling subsides, and the slow process of healing begins, leaving behind a puckered, ugly scar as a permanent reminder of your brush with death. But more often than not, the infection is too powerful. The wound, which began as a simple, careless cut, becomes your executioner. Your life drains away, not in a sudden violent clash with the beast, but in a slow, agonizing, and inexorable fading, a victim of an enemy too small to be seen.
The strangers nearby. The world you know is both vast and incredibly small. It is vast in its physical scale, the great, empty landscapes that you roam in search of food, but it is small in its social scale. The only people you truly know, the only people you trust, are the handful of individuals
who make up your own clan. They are your family, your world. Everyone else is a stranger. And in a world of scarce resources and constant danger, a stranger is not a potential friend. They are a potential threat. The appearance of another band of humans on the horizon is a moment of supreme tension, a silent, watchful encounter that could end in a peaceful avoidance or a sudden, brutal explosion of violence. You see them first from a distance, a small group of figures moving along a ridgeline. They are too far away to make out any details, but they are unmistakably human. An immediate, silent alarm ripples through your own group. You freeze, melting into the landscape, using the cover of a rock or a thicket of bushes to conceal yourself. All activity ceases. The only thing that matters now is to watch, to assess, to understand the nature of this new presence in your territory. Your mind is a rapid calculator of risk. How many of them are there? Are they a large, strong group, or a small, weaker one? Are they armed? Are they carrying the fresh meat of a kill, which might make them complacent? Or are their hands empty, which might make them desperate? Are they moving through your territory? Or are they moving towards one of your sacred places, your best hunting grounds, your secret source of high-quality flint? Fear is your first and most rational response. These strangers are your direct competitors for the same limited resources. They hunt the same animals. They gather the same plants. They drink from the same streams. Your world is not one of abundance. It is a world that is perpetually on the edge of starvation. To share your territory with another group is to have your own chances of survival. And there is a deeper, more primal fear. These are not your people. They may have different customs, a different way of speaking, different spirits that they worship. They are the other, and the other is always a potential source of danger. Stories are passed down from the elders of past encounters, of raids, of stolen women, of brutal territorial wars fought with stone-tipped spears and heavy clubs. The most likely and most desirable outcome of this encounter is a mutual, silent avoidance. You will watch them, and they, having surely seen you as well, will watch you. The two groups will maintain a safe distance, a wide, invisible buffer zone between them. They may alter their course, turning away to signal their lack of aggressive intent. Your own group will do the same. It is a silent, tense negotiation of space, a dance of mutual suspicion.
But sometimes, avoidance is not possible. You might encounter another group unexpectedly, coming around a bend in a river or over a blind ridge. The two groups are suddenly face to face, only a spear's throw apart. The world seems to stop. Every muscle in your body tenses. Your hand tightens on the smooth, familiar shaft of your spear. You watch the leader of the other group, your eyes locked, trying to read his intentions. Is his posture aggressive? Is his hand tightening on his own weapon? In this moment, a single misinterpreted gesture can be the spark that ignites a fatal conflict. A sudden movement, a shouted word that is misunderstood, any of these can lead to the throwing of the first spear. And once the first blood is shed, there is no turning back. The encounter becomes a chaotic, brutal skirmish, a desperate fight for your life against an enemy who is just as strong, just as clever, and just as desperate as you are. The greatest danger in your world is not always the great beast with its claws and fangs. Sometimes it is the creature that is most like yourself.
The child's cry. In the quiet, smoky darkness of the cave, a new sound joins the familiar symphony of sleeping breaths and the crackle of the fire. It is a small, weak, and fretful sound, the cry of a newborn child. This sound is a paradox. It is a sign of hope, of the continuation of the clan, a promise that your people will endure for another generation. But it is also a sound of profound and terrifying fragility. In your harsh and unforgiving world, A child's life is the most delicate and precarious thing of all. A tiny, flickering flame that can be extinguished by the slightest breath of misfortune. The mother holds the child close to her own body a fragile shield against the world's dangers. The baby is small, its skin red and wrinkled, its eyes barely able to focus. It is a creature of pure, helpless need. It knows only the warmth of its mother's skin, the taste of her milk, the comfort of her heartbeat. For the first months of its life, it is a part of her, carried in a sling of animal hide as she goes about her daily work of gathering, of preparing food, of tending the fire. But the world is filled with dangers that a mother's love cannot protect against. The most relentless of these is the cold. A child's small body loses heat with frightening speed. A night when the fire burns too low, a sudden chilling rainstorm, a fall into an icy stream, any of these can be a death sentence. You watch the children of the clan with a constant, anxious eye, ensuring they are wrapped in the warmest furs, that they stay close to the heart of the fire.
Hunger is another constant threat. When the hunt fails and the gathered food is scarce, it is the children who suffer first. A mother's milk may dry up if she herself is malnourished. The tough, bitter roots and the stringy, dried meat that the adults can survive on are difficult for a small child to digest. A period of famine can sweep through the youngest members of the clan like a devastating plague, leaving a wake of silent, heartbreaking loss. And then there is disease. You have no names for the illnesses that can steal a child away in a matter of days. You only know the symptoms. The fever that makes the small body burn with a terrifying heat. The cough that racks the tiny chest. The wasting sickness that leaves the child pale and listless. You have no medicines to fight these invisible enemies. You can only offer a cooling drink of water, a soothing herbal tea, a whispered prayer to the spirits. You can only watch, helpless, as the small life fades. Accidents are a daily risk. The fire that is the source of your life is also a source of danger. A toddler, drawn by the dancing, beautiful flames, can be severely burned in an instant of inattention. The steep, rocky cliffs around the cave, the swift-running river, the poisonous plants that grow among the edible ones. The world is a minefield of potential disasters for a small, curious, and unsteady human.
Because of this constant onslaught of dangers, the death of a child is a tragically common event. It is a familiar and yet always devastating sorrow. Nearly half of all children born will not survive to see their 5th year. The clan is small, and every loss is felt deeply. The sound of a mother's quiet, heartbroken weeping in the night is a sound that everyone knows. The grief is real, and it is profound. But it is a grief that cannot be indulged for long. The demands of survival are relentless. The fire must be tended, the food must be gathered, the hunt must go on. The clan must look to the living, and so the small, fragile body is wrapped in a hide and buried in a shallow grave at the back of the cave, perhaps with a favorite toy or a smooth, beautiful stone. A prayer is said, and life, for the survivors, continues. The cry of a child in the night is the sound of both the greatest hope and the greatest sorrow of your world. Part 4. Hunger, Loss, and Fear. The Empty Hunt. There are days when the world seems to offer up its bounty, when the hunt is swift and successful, and the clan feasts around a roaring fire. But there are other days, long, wearying, and soul-crushing days, when the world holds its secrets close, when the animals vanish as if into thin air, and the spears come back as empty and as clean as when they left. These are the days of the empty hunt,
and they are a slow, creeping poison of hunger and despair that seeps into the heart of the clan. The day begins with the same hope, the same quiet ritual as any other. The hunters take up their spears, their bodies fueled by the last meager scraps of the previous day's food. They move out into the landscape, their eyes sharp, their senses alert. But today, the world is different. The familiar signs are absent. The tracks are old. The dung is dry. The game trails are eerily silent. It is as if the animals with some sixth sense have moved on, migrating to a distant valley, leaving behind a world that is beautiful and vast and utterly empty.
As the day wears on, a new and unwelcome companion joins the hunt, the sharp, twisting cramp of a truly empty stomach. The meager root they ate at dawn has long since been burned away. Their bodies begin to consume themselves, a slow internal fire that leaves them feeling weak, lightheaded, and irritable. Every step becomes an effort. The weight of the spear, once a comforting and familiar burden, now feels impossibly heavy. The silence of the hunting party, which on a successful day is a silence of focused concentration, now becomes a heavy, oppressive silence of failure. There is no need for words. The shared experience is communicated through the slump of their shoulders, the slowness of their pace, the grim, frustrated set of their jaws. Each hunter is alone with his own growing hunger and his own sense of failure. The journey back to the cave in the fading light is the hardest part of all. It is a walk of shame. Every step is a heavy, leaden confirmation of their failure. They know that the eyes of the entire clan will be upon them as they approach the cave mouth. They know the question that will be in everyone's mind, a question that will not need to be asked.
And as they emerge from the trees into the clearing before the cave, their empty hands are the only answer required. A deep, collective sigh of disappointment seems to ripple through the waiting clan. There will be no feast tonight. There will be no rich, satisfying taste of roasted meat. The children, who had been waiting with a hopeful excitement, turn away with a quiet, heartbreaking understanding. Tonight's meal will be whatever the gatherers were able to find. A few more bitter roots, a handful of tough, leathery mushrooms, a thin, watery broth made by boiling old bones to extract the last faint traces of their marrow. It is a meal that will dull the sharpest pangs of hunger, but it will not satisfy. It is a meal of pure, joyless subsistence. As you lie on your furs that night, the hunger in your belly is a living thing, a cold, coiling serpent that refuses to let you sleep. You listen to the sounds of the cave, the fretful cries of a hungry child, the quiet, worried whispers of the adults. The fire, which on a night of feasting is a symbol of warmth and community, now seems to mock you with its empty light. The empty hunt is more than just a failure to find food. It is a stark, terrifying reminder of your own fragility, of the precariousness of your existence in a world that owes you nothing. And you know, with a cold certainty, that you must rise at dawn and do it all again, praying that tomorrow the world will be more generous. The scavenger's risk. There are times when the hunger is a dull, constant ache, a familiar companion that you have learned to live with. But there are other times, after days of empty hunts, when the ache sharpens into a desperate, all-consuming need, a force that can drive you to take risks that you would normally never consider. In these desperate times, you become something other than a hunter. You become a scavenger.
You set aside your pride, and you follow the true masters of the hunt, the wolves and the lions, hoping to steal the scraps from their table. The scavenger's journey begins not by following the tracks of the prey, but by following the predators. You see a flock of vultures circling in the sky in the distance. This is the first sign, a black, spiraling arrow pointing the way to a recent death. You begin to move towards it, your heart pounding with a mixture of hope and of fear. As you get closer, you begin to hear the sounds of the kill. It is a symphony of wild, savage noises. The deep, guttural growls of a great cat, the frantic, high-pitched yipping of a pack of hyenas, the tearing of flesh and the crunching of bone. Your hunger, which was a cold stone in your gut, now becomes a hot, raging fire. You approach the scene with the utmost caution, using the cover of rocks and low bushes to creep closer. The sight that greets you is one of pure, primal violence. A great cave lion stands over the carcass of a bison, its muzzle and its massive paws stained with blood. It tears at the flesh with its powerful jaws, its golden eyes burning with a fierce, possessive fire. A circle of smaller predators, hyenas and jackals, waits at a respectful distance, their bodies tense, their eyes fixed on the lion, waiting for their chance to dart in and steal a morsel. You are now a part of this circle of scavengers. You are weaker than the lion, weaker even than the hyenas. Your only advantages are your intelligence, your ability to cooperate, and your desperation. Your small band of hunters gathers at the edge of the scene. Your spear is held ready. You are not planning to fight the lion. That would be suicide. You are planning to intimidate it. At a given signal, you all stand up at once. You shout, you yell, you bang your spears against a rock. You make as much noise and as much sudden movement as you can. The goal is to create a moment of confusion, to startle the great cat, to make it believe that you are a greater threat than you actually are.
For a terrifying moment, the lion turns its bloody muzzle towards you. It lets out a deep, rumbling roar that seems to vibrate in your very bones. Its ears are flat against its head, its lips pulled back to reveal its immense, dagger-like canine teeth. It is a vision of pure, concentrated fury. Your own fear is a cold, metallic taste in your mouth. Your instinct is to turn and run, to flee from this terrifying creature. But you stand your ground. You must. Sometimes the bluff works. The lion, having already eaten its fill, might decide that the annoyance and the potential risk of a fight are not worth it. With a final, resentful snarl, it may abandon the carcass and stalk off into the tall grass, leaving the field to the scavengers. This is your chance. You rush in, a frantic, desperate scramble to claim what you can before the other, faster scavengers can get to it. There is no time for careful butchery. You use your flint knives to hack off whatever pieces of meat you can, to grab a leg bone that is rich with marrow, to salvage a piece of the hide. You are fighting with the hyenas, driving them back with your spears in a chaotic, snarling melee over the bloody remains. You retreat with your stolen prize, your heart still pounding from the adrenaline of the encounter. The meat is mangled and dirty, but it is meat. It is a victory, but it is a humbling one. To be a scavenger is to be reminded of your true place in the food chain. You are not the king of this world. You are a clever, desperate, and often hungry creature, willing to risk a violent death for the chance to eat the leftovers from a more powerful predator's meal.
The long, cold night. There are nights when the cave is a sanctuary of warmth and security. The fire blazes, bellies are full, and
sleep comes easily, a deep and peaceful journey into the darkness. But there are other nights, nights that follow an empty hunt or a day of relentless, chilling rain, when the carefully constructed fortress of your comfort collapses, and the night becomes a long, cold, and terrifying ordeal. These are the nights when the fire dies. It happens slowly, almost imperceptibly. The wood gathered during the day was damp, and it burns poorly, smoldering and hissing rather than blazing. The supply is meager, and it must be rationed. The person on watch, their body heavy with exhaustion, may nod off for a few crucial moments, and in that time, the last struggling flame gives up its fight, and the fire is reduced to a pile of black, cooling embers. The change is not immediate. The stones of the hearth still radiate a faint residual warmth, but the light is gone. The cave is plunged into an absolute, disorienting blackness, a darkness so profound that you cannot see your own hand in front of your face. It is a physical presence, a heavy, smothering blanket that seems to absorb all sound and all hope.
And then the cold begins to creep in. Without the fire to hold it at bay, the deep, ancient chill of the stone and the earth begins to reclaim the space. It seeps up from the floor through your bed of furs. It flows in on the drafts of wind that snake their way through the cave mouth. It is a relentless, penetrating cold that finds its way into your bones, making you shiver with a deep, uncontrollable tremor. You huddle together with the other members of your clan, a desperate, shivering mass of bodies, trying to share what little warmth you possess. But it is not enough. The cold is too powerful. Sleep becomes impossible. You lie awake, your muscles tensed against the chill, your mind racing. Without the light of the fire, your other senses are heightened, and the world becomes a place of terrifying sound. The gentle, familiar sounds of the night are transformed into threats. The rustle of a small animal in the corner of the cave could be the scuttling of something much larger. The drip of water from the ceiling is a maddening, relentless rhythm in the dark.
But the most terrifying sounds are the ones that come from outside. Without the protective, flickering barrier of the fire, the cave mouth is no longer a doorway to your home. It is an open, gaping wound, an invitation to the dangers of the night. The howl of a wolf, which on a normal night is a distant, mournful song, now sounds as if it is right outside the entrance, a direct, hungry threat. You hear the snap of a twig, the scuff of a paw on stone, and your heart freezes in your chest. Is it a cave lion, drawn by the lingering scent of your clan? Is it a bear, wandering in search of shelter? There is no way to know. You can only lie there, your hand gripping the cold shaft of your spear, your ears straining, your body rigid with a mixture of cold and of fear. The person on watch is now a watcher in pure darkness, their senses of hearing and smell their only defense. The night stretches on, an eternity of cold, of darkness, of fear. You long for the dawn, the desperation you have never known before. You pray to the spirits of the sky for the first faint hint of gray light on the horizon. To be without fire is to be stripped of your greatest weapon, your greatest comfort, your greatest symbol of humanity. It is to be reduced to just another frightened, shivering animal, cowering in a dark hole, waiting for the long, cold night to end.
The clan does what it can. The healer, the elder who holds the knowledge of the plants, prepares a variety of remedies. They brew a hot, steaming tea from the leaves of the linden tree to soothe the cough. They create a poultice of crushed herbs and apply it to the sick person's chest. They may perform a healing ritual, chanting and shaking a rattle to drive away the malevolent spirit that they believe has invaded the sick person's body. You offer what comfort you can. You bring them sips of fresh, cool water. You offer them the best, most tender pieces of meat from the hunt, trying to coax them to eat, to build up their strength. You sit with them, a silent, comforting presence in their long, lonely hours of sickness. But the illness progresses. The weakness becomes profound. The sick person can no longer sit up. Their breathing becomes a shallow, ragged struggle. Their eyes, once bright and full of life, become dull and clouded, looking at you from a great and growing distance. They may speak, but their words are the rambling, nonsensical phrases of a fevered dream.
The illness without name. In your world, the greatest threats are often the ones you can see. The charging mammoth, the stalking lion, the coming storm. But there is another kind of danger, a silent, invisible, and far more insidious enemy that can creep into the warmth of your cave and steal a life away without a sound, without a struggle. It is the enemy within, the illness without a name. You have no knowledge of viruses, of bacteria, of the microscopic world that wages a constant war on your bodies. You only know the result, a slow, inexorable fading, a sickness that has no clear cause and no known cure. It begins quietly. A member of your clan, someone who was strong and healthy just a few days ago, starts to cough. At first, it is a small, dry cough, easily dismissed. But it deepens, becoming a wet, racking cough that tears at their chest and leaves them breathless. They become weak, their energy draining away as if from an unseen wound. They no longer have the strength for the hunt, or even for the short walk to the stream. They spend their days lying on their furs by the fire, their face pale and beaded with a constant, clammy sweat. There is no diagnosis. There is no understanding of contagion. You do not know that the invisible seeds of the illness are being spread with every cough, passed from one person to another in the close, smoky air of the cave. You only know that a mysterious weakness has taken hold of your companion, a weakness that seems to have come from nowhere.
You watch, helpless, as the person you know begins to disappear. Their body wasting away, their spirit seeming to retreat from a world that has become a place of pain and of struggle. It is a slow, quiet, and deeply frustrating kind of death. It lacks the terrible drama of a hunting accident or a clash with a beast. It is a simple, relentless, and incomprehensible fading. And then, one morning, the struggle is over. The ragged breathing has stopped. The body is still. A profound, heavy silence settles over the cave. Another life has been claimed by the illness without a name. You do not know why it happened. You do not know if it will strike again. You only know that the world is filled with mysterious and invisible forces, and that life itself is a fragile, uncertain, and often tragically short journey. All you can do is mourn the one who is gone and live in quiet fear of the day when the silent, invisible enemy might choose to visit you, the death in the cave. Death is a constant and familiar presence in your world. You see it in the bloody aftermath of the hunt. You feel its cold breath in the near miss with a predator. You witness its slow, creeping work in the form of the illness without a name. But when death comes for one of your own, when it enters the sanctuary of your cave and stills a familiar heart, it is an event of profound and quiet sorrow. The loss of even one member is a deep wound to the small, fragile body of the clan.
The rituals that follow are not elaborate or grand, but they are heavy with the weight of love, of grief, and of a deep human need to honor the journey of the spirit. The moment of death is marked by a sudden, heavy silence. The struggle is over. The other members of the clan gather around the still body, their faces etched with a deep, weary sadness. There may be a low, soft wailing, a sound of pure, instinctual grief that is more animal than human, a sound that comes from the very depths of the soul. It is the sound of loss, a raw and unfiltered expression of the pain of separation. The body is not abandoned or discarded. It is treated with a gentle, final reverence. The women of the clan will clean the body, washing away the sweat of the final illness or the blood of a fatal wound. They will fold the person's limbs, often into a fetal position, a symbolic return to the posture of birth, a completion of the circle of life. The body is then wrapped in the person's own sleeping fur or in the finest, softest animal hide that the clan possesses. It is a final act of warmth, of care, of protection for the journey into the next world.
The grave is not in some distant, lonely place. It is here, within the cave itself. The cave is the home of the living, and it will also be the home of the dead. A shallow grave is dug in a quiet, unused corner of the cave floor, a slow, laborious process of chipping away at the hard-packed earth and stone with digging sticks and the shoulder blades of large animals. Before the body is placed in the grave, it is often adorned with objects of meaning and of beauty. A necklace of polished shells or animal teeth might be placed around the neck. A fine, sharp flint tool, perhaps the one they made themselves, might be placed in their hand. These are grave goods, objects to accompany the spirit on its journey, or perhaps simple tokens of love and of memory. In a world with so few possessions, to give away such a valuable object is an act of supreme sacrifice and of deep affection. The body is then gently lowered into the grave, and in a final, powerful gesture of ritual and of love, the body is often covered with a dusting of red ochre powder. The rich, earthy red of the ochre is the color of blood, the color of life. To cover the dead with this color is not a morbid act. It is an act of hope, a magical attempt to restore the life that has been lost, a prayer for rebirth in the spirit world. It is a final, vibrant blush against the pale, cold finality of death. The grave is then filled in with the earth and the stones that were removed. A larger, heavier stone might be placed on top, a simple, permanent marker to protect the grave and to honor the person who lies beneath. There is no formal eulogy, no grand speech. The grief of the clan is a quiet, heavy presence that fills the cave in the days that follow. It is seen in the downcast eyes, in the slowness of movement, in the empty space by the fire where a familiar face should be. But life must go on. The fire must be tended. The hunt must be undertaken. The living have their own struggles to attend to. The death in the cave is a deep and painful wound, but the clan, like a single resilient body, will slowly, quietly, and necessarily begin to heal. Part 5. The Endless Cycle. The Elder's Fire. As the night deepens, and the younger members of the clan drift into a sleep born of exhaustion and full bellies, a second, quieter fire is kindled. It is the fire of the elders, the keepers of the clan's memory. They gather in a small circle, their bodies frail and stooped with age, their faces a roadmap of 1,000 hardships, their eyes holding a deep, quiet wisdom. Their voices, when they speak, are raspy and low, a sound like dry leaves rustling over old stone.
and in the flickering, intimate light of the fire, they perform their most sacred duty. They tell the stories. There are no books, no written words. The history of your people, the knowledge of your world, the laws of your society, all of this exists only in the memories of these few fragile humans. The fire of the elders is the library, the school, and the temple of your people. To sit and listen to their words is to receive a precious, invisible inheritance, the accumulated wisdom of 1,000 generations. They speak of the beginning of things, of the great mythical time of the ancestors, when the world was new and the mountains were soft clay. They tell of the Great Spirit who shaped the land, who carved the rivers with his finger, who scattered the stars in the sky like a handful of shining pebbles. They tell of the first animals, great magical beasts who could speak and who taught the first humans the secrets of the world. These stories are your cosmology, your science, your religion, all woven into a single seamless narrative.
They tell the stories of the great heroes of your clan, of the legendary hunter who faced a cave bear with nothing but a sharpened stick, of the wise woman who discovered the secret of how to leach the poison from the acorns. These stories are not just entertainment, they are your moral compass. They teach you the virtues that your people value: courage, patience, generosity, and a deep respect for the spirits of the world. They are the examples you are meant to follow, the ideals you are meant to strive for. The elders are also the keepers of the practical knowledge. They are the living maps. They can describe, from memory, the location of a hidden spring that never runs dry, or a remote quarry where the best, blackest flint can be found. They are the living calendars. They can read the signs of the changing seasons and the flight of the birds and the budding of the trees. They know when the salmon will run in the river, when the berries will be ripe for the picking, when the great herds of reindeer will begin their long migration. This knowledge is the difference between a winter of feasting and a winter of starvation.
Their hands, gnarled with age and arthritis, are still busy as they speak. An old woman might be twisting plant fibers into a strong piece of cord. An old man might be slowly, patiently polishing a piece of bone into a new needle. Their work is slower now, but it is no less important. They are the teachers, showing the younger generation the ancient, essential skills of survival. To be an elder in your society is to hold a position of immense respect. They are no longer strong enough for the hunt, but their value is not measured in physical strength. It is measured in the depth of their memory, in the richness of their stories, in the quiet, steady wisdom of their counsel. They are the anchors of your clan, the living connection to all the generations who came before. You sit at the edge of their circle, a young person listening in silence, your face illuminated by the fire's glow. You absorb their words, their stories, their knowledge. You are committing it all to your own memory, knowing that one day, many, many seasons from now, it will be your turn to sit by this fire, your own face a wrinkled map, your own voice a raspy whisper, and you will become the one who tells the stories, keeping the faint, precious flame of your people's memory alive in the great surrounding darkness.
The Sky's Stories. On a clear, cold night, when the fire in the cave has been banked to a low, glowing heart, you might step out of the smoky warmth and into the vast, silent cathedral of the world. You walk a few paces from the cave mouth and you look up. The sight that greets you is one of sublime, terrifying, and overwhelming beauty. It is the night sky, a great, dark, velvet dome,
pierced by 1,000,000 points of sharp, cold silver light. In your world, a world without the light pollution of a later age, the stars do not just dot the sky, they fill it, they crowd it, a dense, shimmering river of light that flows from one horizon to the other. This is the other great fire, the cold fire of the night. It is a source of wonder, of mystery, and of deep spiritual meaning. You do not see the stars as random points of light. You see them as a storybook, a map, a calendar, a home for the spirits and the gods. The sky is not empty space. It is a second celestial landscape, teeming with a life of its own. Your people have watched this sky for 1,000 generations. They have seen its slow, predictable rhythms, the stately nightly procession of the constellations across the heavens. And in these patterns of light, they have seen the shapes of the world around them. That bright cluster of stars is the Great Bear. That curving line of stars is the hunter with his upraised spear. That faint, misty band of light that stretches across the sky is the Spirit River, the path that the souls of the dead follow to the next world. These star pictures are more than just idle fancies. They are a part of your mythology, your way of organizing and understanding the cosmos. The stories of the stars are woven into the stories of your people. The Great Bear in the sky is the same spirit bear that the first shaman hunted in the dream time. The celestial hunter is the first ancestor, the one who taught your people the art of the spear. To look at the stars is to see your own stories reflected back at you, written in a language of eternal, silent light. The sky is also your clock and your calendar. You know by the position of certain stars on the horizon at sunrise that the seasons are turning. You know that when the Hunter constellation begins to rise just before the dawn, the coldest part of the winter is coming. You know that when the cluster of stars you call the Gathering of Sisters is high in the sky after sunset, the berries will be ripe in the valleys. The sky is a great, slow, turning wheel that tells you when to move, when to hunt, when to prepare for the long, lean months of winter.
The moon, the sky's great, changing eye, is a source of particular power and mystery. You watch its slow, magical cycle from a thin, silver sliver to a full, luminous disk and back to darkness again. This rhythm of the moon is your way of measuring time, of counting the passage of the seasons. The full moon, with its bright, ghostly light, is a time of magic, a time when the spirits are close to the earth. It is a time for rituals, for ceremonies, for stories told in the pale, cold light. And sometimes the sky offers a sudden, breathtaking spectacle, a shooting star, a bright, silent streak of light that blazes across the darkness for a fleeting instant. This is a powerful omen, a sign from the spirit world, a message that must be carefully interpreted by the elders. Or, rarest and most terrifying of all, the sun itself might be eaten by a great, dark shadow in the middle of the day, plunging the world into an unnatural twilight. This eclipse is a moment of profound cosmic terror, a sign that the order of the world has been broken, a time for prayers and for sacrifice. You stand there, a small, fur-clad figure, your head tilted back, your breath misting in the cold air, and you feel a sense of profound awe, of connection to something infinitely larger and older than yourself. The stories in the sky are the oldest stories of all, and in their silent, shimmering light, you feel both your own insignificance and your own deep and eternal belonging to the world. The Silent Watch. The night in your world is not a time of guaranteed peace and rest. It is a time when the world belongs to the other, nocturnal predators,
a time when your own primary sense, your sight, is rendered almost useless. The fire is your shield, your fortress of light and warmth in the great surrounding ocean of darkness and danger. But a shield is useless without a hand to hold it. And so, every night, from the moment the last person falls asleep to the moment the first person stirs at dawn, someone must keep the silent watch. This is a duty that falls to every able-bodied adult in the clan, taken in turns. It is a heavy responsibility, a sacred trust. The lives of your entire family depend on your vigilance. To fall asleep on the watch, to let the fire die, to fail to notice the approach of a predator. These are the ultimate, unforgivable failures. When it is your turn to take the watch, you do not sleep deeply in the early part of the night. You drift in a shallow, half-aware state until a gentle shake of your shoulder tells you that it is your time. You rise from your warm furs, the shock of the cold night air a sudden jolt to your senses. You take your spear and you move to the designated spot, a place near the cave mouth that offers a clear view of the entrance and of the precious sleeping heart of the fire.
The first and most important task of the watch is to tend the fire. It is a living entity, and it needs constant care and attention. You must feed it, adding new logs from the carefully guarded woodpile, but not too many at once, lest you waste the precious fuel. You must use a long stick to push the embers together to keep the heart of the fire hot and alive. You watch the color of the flames, the way the smoke rises, learning to read the fire's health and its needs. The fire is your partner in this long, silent vigil. Your primary duty is to listen. In the profound silence of the night, your hearing becomes incredibly acute. You learn to distinguish between the familiar, innocent sounds and the sounds that signal danger. You know the soft rustle of a mouse in the corner of the cave, the gentle sigh of the wind as it moves through the trees outside, the distant, mournful cry of an owl. These are the sounds of the normal world. But you were listening for other things. You were listening for the heavy, shuffling sound of a bear. You were listening for the almost inaudible, stealthy patting of a great cat's paws on the rock outside. You were listening for the sharp crack of a twig that is too loud, too close to be an accident. You were listening for the low, guttural growl that is not the sound of the wind. Your eyes, too, are constantly at work. You do not stare into the darkness, which is a blinding, impenetrable wall. You stare into the fire, and you watch the shadows that it casts. The dancing, flickering light turns the familiar shapes of the cave into a world of moving, ghostly forms. But you are watching the entrance. You are looking for a shadow that is too large, too solid, a shadow that moves with a purpose that is not the random dance of the firelight. The hours of the watch stretch on, long and slow. The temptation to sleep is a powerful physical weight. Your eyelids feel heavy. Your mind, lulled by the crackle of the fire and the rhythmic breathing of your sleeping family, begins to drift. You must fight this urge with all your strength. You shift your position. You splash cold water on your face. You grip your spear until your knuckles are white. You know that a moment of weakness could be the last moment for everyone. And so you sit, a lonely, silent guardian, a bridge between the sleeping world of your people and the waking, hungry world of the night. You are the eyes and the ears of the clan. Your vigil is a profound act of love and of duty, a testament to the deep, unspoken bonds that hold your small, fragile community together. And when you see the first faint hint of gray in the eastern sky, a deep, bone-weary relief washes over you. You have done your duty. You have kept the fire alive. You have brought your family safely through the darkness to the dawn of another day.
The dawn hunt returns. The cycle is endless. The sun, which you watched set in a blaze of orange and purple, is now a pale, hesitant suggestion of light in the eastern sky. The long, cold night has been survived. The fire, thanks to the silent vigil of the watchers, is being built back up into a roaring, life-giving heart. The bitter roots have been chewed and swallowed, and now the familiar, solemn ritual of the hunt begins once more. There is no question of whether to go. There is only the quiet, grim, and absolute necessity of it. Survival is not a state that is achieved. It is a task that begins anew with every dawn. The hunters gather again at the mouth of the cave. The faces are the same, the bodies clad in the same familiar furs, the hands gripping the same stone-tipped spears. But there is a subtle difference in the mood today. Yesterday's hunt was a success, and the memory of the shared meal, the feeling of a full belly, lingers. The gnawing, desperate edge of hunger is gone, replaced by a quiet, focused confidence. Today, you do not hunt out of desperation. You hunt to replenish the stores, to provide for the days to come. But the success of yesterday is no guarantee of the success of today. The animals are not a predictable resource. They are wild and they are intelligent. The herd of horses that you found in the valley yesterday may have moved on, spooked by your presence, their powerful instincts driving them miles away to a new, safer grazing ground. The world does not stand still. Every hunt is a new problem, a new puzzle to be solved. And so, you set out again, your footsteps falling on the same well-worn paths, but your mind is already working, reassessing, reformulating the plan. You will not return to the same valley. You will move in a different direction, towards the low hills to the north, where the elder remembers seeing signs of bison many seasons ago. The hunt is a constant dialogue between memory and new observation.
The air is cold and clean, and your breath mists in front of you. The world is being born anew in the pale pre-dawn light. A layer of frost coats the dry grasses, making them crunch under your feet. The silence is profound, broken only by the distant call of a bird. You move through this silent, waking world with a familiar, practiced grace, your body a part of the landscape, your mind sharp and alert. You find the tracks you are looking for sooner than you had hoped. They are the great, cloven hoofprints of a herd of bison, fresh in the damp earth. A silent, electric jolt of excitement passes through the hunting party. The slow, patient work of tracking begins. You follow the trail, your eyes reading the story that it tells. The number of animals, the direction they are moving, the speed of their travel. The sun is higher now, and the frost has melted. The world is awake. You are no longer just a hunter. You are part of a great ancient cycle. You are the predator, and the bison is the prey. But there is no malice in this relationship, no hatred. There is only a deep, profound, and respectful understanding of the way the world works. The bison gives its life so that your clan may live. And you, in turn, will treat its body with respect, using every part, wasting nothing. The long hours of walking pass. The initial confidence gives way to the familiar, patient rhythm of the track. And then you see them. On a distant grassy slope, a herd of dark, shaggy shapes, their great horned heads bent to the ground as they graze. The hunt is about to enter its final.
The echo of forever. The day ends, as all days do. The sun bleeds across the western sky and sinks below the horizon. The great, consuming darkness returns to the world. In the cave, the fire burns, a small, defiant island of light in the immense, silent blackness of the night. The bellies are full, the bodies are weary, the soft, rhythmic breathing of your sleeping family fills the warm, smoky air. You lie on your bed of furs, hovering in the quiet space between wakefulness and sleep, and you feel the immense, crushing weight of time. Your life is a tiny, flickering flame, a brief and fragile warmth in the vast, cold eternity of the world. You think of the generations that came before you, the countless ancestors you have never known who lived and died in this very cave. They slept on this same stone floor. They warmed themselves by a fire in this same hearth. They looked out of this same cave mouth at this same unchanging sky. Their ghosts are all around you. Their whispers are in the sigh of the wind. Their memories are in the stories told by the elders. You are a single link in an unbroken, ancient chain. You think of the great painted animals on the walls of the secret inner chamber. They were painted by hands that have long since turned to dust, but the animals themselves are still alive, still running in their silent, eternal hunt in the flickering torchlight. They are a promise of permanence, a testament to the fact that something can and does endure. The handprint on the wall, a ghostly outline of a hand just like your own, is a message sent across a chasm of time you cannot comprehend. It says, simply, "We were here."
You look at the sleeping face of your own child, their small chest rising and falling with each quiet breath. And you know that you are a bridge. You are the vessel through which the knowledge, the stories, and the very blood of your people will be passed on to the future. You will teach this child how to nap the flint, how to read the tracks, which plants are safe to eat. And one day, they will teach their own children. The chain will continue. Your own life is a short and brutal affair. It is a life of constant struggle, of gnawing hunger, of shivering cold, of sudden, violent death. There is little comfort and even less certainty. And yet, in these quiet moments, you feel a sense of something larger than your own small personal survival. You feel a sense of belonging to something that is vast and ancient and eternal. You belong to the clan. You belong to the land. You belong to the great, endless cycle of birth and life and death and rebirth. The cave grows quiet. The fire burns low, its light casting long, soft shadows that dance like ancient spirits on the stone walls. Your consciousness begins to fade, to dissolve into the warm, welcome oblivion of sleep. Your life is but one flicker in the endless dark, a single brief note in a song that has been sung since the beginning of time. And as you drift away, you feel a strange and profound sense of peace. You are small, and your life is short, but you are not alone, and you are not the end of the story. You are just a part of the echo of forever.